So what we're going to look at is lung cancer, which is the leading cause of cancer death in men and women in this country. And part of the problem is that it's usually diagnosed late, which is why we're looking for a way to detect lung cancer early. If we can find lung cancers much earlier, then the rate of treatment and cure will be much greater. Early detection of lung cancer would really improve the treatment and cure rates. So we're looking for a screening tool to detect lung cancer early, but also to identify people, to do a better job of identifying people who are at risk of developing lung cancer. So specifically, we are looking at biomarkers, which is a genetic indicator, in this case something that we can look at in the blood, so it would be a simple blood test that would detect lung cancer early. We want to determine who's at risk, who's at greatest risk for developing lung cancer, and we want to enroll them in a screening program so that we can do these screening tests on a regular basis. And of course, we want to develop the test that will determine who is at greater risk of developing lung cancer. So the people that we want to enroll in our study, again, those are people who we know today are at risk for lung cancer. These are people who have smoked currently, or have smoked in the past. They may have a history of exposure to somebody else's smoking, the secondhand smoke. Over the age of 50, age does increase your risk, and having a family history of lung cancer. Over the 5 years of this project, we want to enroll 500 people. We have been enrolling for 1 year now, and unfortunately we've had difficulty recruiting African Americans into our study. This is really important that we have a diverse sample in our study so that we have people from different racial and ethnic backgrounds represented in the study. And we estimate that over the 5 years of the study, 30 of our participants will be diagnosed with lung cancer. So we will be doing screening over time. And this is kind of the normal rate of cancer that you would see in this size of a group. So as I said, it's a 5-year study, and there are annual clinic visits, and this is really all the participants have to do. They have to come into our clinic once a year. At every visit, we will look at blood, urine, sputum, or spit, and we will do a spirometry, which is a breathing test that just measures your lung capacity. We'll do a chest CT scan, which is kind of like an X-ray, but it has lower radiation dose, in 4 of the 5 years. And then 3 times over the study, the first year, the 3rd year, and then the 5th year, we will do a bronchoscopy, which is a biopsy of the lung. And this is a test that requires sedation because the bronchoscopy goes through your trachea into your lung. We don't biopsy the one from the outside. Obviously, that would cause a puncture of blood, which would be a bad idea. So our annual visit is at the Vanderbilt Clinic. I know many of you are familiar with the Vanderbilt Clinic. Usually a full day is required, particularly when in the years that we do a bronchoscopy. So you would have to take off of work. As I said, the bronchoscopy is a procedure that requires sedation. So you can't drive home afterwards. You'll have to have someone come with you and take you home. But all the tests are free. We won't charge anything for the screening. And of course, we will give you the results of any problems that we might find during the screening. That's really basically the study. It's, as I said, 5 years, but 1 visit a year, and we'll give you the results of the test. So at this point, are there any questions about the study before we get into my questions for you?
Is there a reason why you chose for the study to go for 5 years?
Well, it just gives us enough time to track people because, you know, we have a group that is at risk of developing cancer, and we want to be able to track them over a significant period of time.
Are the participants compensated for the the time?
We don't have money to compensate, but we do, as I said, offer all the screening tests. There's no charge for that.
So does that mean if there are transportation issues, you wouldn't be able to make arrangements for that as well?
We've not built that into the study. Any other questions?
All right, seeing that we have no other questions, I'm Yolanda Vaughn, if you hadn't had a chance to meet me before, and I currently serve as the transition consultant for the Neighborhoods Resource Center. So I'm not affiliated with Vanderbilt, but they bring me in to lead these discussions. Our goal today is simply to get your ideas and your thoughts. So I have two basic rules. I want you to talk, just not over one another. Can we do that? Yes. All right, we ready? So Yvonne just gave a great presentation over her project. I know that you all know who I am, but just to make sure I'm clear and I have a good idea of who's at the table, would you please give me your first name?
Jackie.
Yes.
Helena.
Wendell?
I'm Annie today.
I'm Willie Frank.
And Jay.
Jay, nice to meet you. Willie, Frank, Annie, Wendell, Helena, and Jackie. I think I've got it. All right. What did you think about what Yvonne just mentioned? What were your first thoughts of the study?
It's a little scary.
A little scary?
Yes.
But it's overdue.
Overdue? Why do you say that?
I think there have probably been a disproportionate number of African Americans died of lung cancer for years.
Okay.
We just didn't know.
Jay, what was your first thought?
That was a much needed study.
Okay.
A lot of people are impacted by lung cancer. And any research to help curb that is great.
As a lifelong smoker and a single mom of 4, I was wondering if I'm diagnosed, then what happens next? I don't think much was shared about.
I'm going to yield to Yvonne. So if someone is diagnosed, what do we do with that information and how do we help them get adequate health care?
Well, we would certainly refer them for treatment. Vanderbilt has a great cancer treatment center.
Free treatment?
No, we can't. No, we would use your insurance coverage.
But if there was no
But
insurance.
if there was no insurance, do you have to have insurance to be in the study?
No, you don't.
So what if you don't have insurance, but you find out that you're diagnosed? Then where do you go?
That's a good question. We hadn't really thought about that in our design, but we would certainly have
To come back to that.
to address that, yes.
Okay.
Well, that would be my concern, health insurance. I'm not sure if there's no plan to treat, should I be diagnosed. I'm not too sure how anxious would I be to know?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would want to know if I can't be treated.
So when you heard of the study, was your first thought, what happens if I'm diagnosed
Yes.
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 and how am I cared for?
Yes.
Okay. That aside, did you have any other thoughts? It's a good study, bad study?
I thought it was a good study. It just reminded me that I really need to stop smoking. I've stopped on and off for the past 25 years, but my grandfather died of emphysema, not lung cancer, but it's just made me think a little more about why I need to quit. And hopefully it's not too late.
Elaine, I don't think we've heard your first thought.
Other than just a little scary about the process and the commitment that I'd have to make for 5 years. It scares me to find out if I have it. It would be scary.
Okay. Those are some great first impressions. Glad to hear your thoughts. Aside from some of your initial concerns, what do you think would be the benefit to you or your community for this study to go forward?
Awareness.
Awareness,
Prevention.
prevention.
If we can figure out ways to prevent it, if we can figure out. Sometimes I wonder, is lung cancer just by smoking, or is it hereditary? Or does it have to do with where you live or what you eat? Any of those things.
Okay. Yes, Annie, I see you shaking your head.
I wrote down so any correlations to social settings. I don't know, neighborhoods, inner city or rural. Any type of correlations to that.
Looking to, using this study to identify if there are correlations. Is something happening in either the rural community or the urban setting?
Yep.
Okay, finding trends. Yes,
I had a
Jackie?
question concerning that too. Is it exacerbated by stressful lifestyles more than other lifestyles? And early detection is important, but early detection and treatment would be better.
Yes, it
Yes.
is. Did I see another hand or head? I thought I saw a nod. Jay, did you have an opportunity to comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Awareness.
Great. Willie Frank, that's who I didn't hear from. Yes, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna wait to comment on the negative benefits.
Okay, you're holding your thoughts. That's fine. Can anyone else think of any other benefit to you or the community for this study going forward?
My
Okay.
kids.
What about your children?
Well, if I can figure out what's going on with me and I can prevent it from happening to them, and they can use me as an example of what not to do. I mean, I started smoking at 15,
Okay.
you know, and stopped a couple years ago, and I wonder just how much damage I've done. Can I get them back? My lungs, I'm speaking of. So I think it would help my kids if they saw me actually being in a program to try to do better.
To do something about it, great.
The secondhand smoke awareness as well with kids. So as a single mom of 4, you want to be, I've been aware of that for some time, but hadn't been able to make a decision.
Okay. Thinking, oh, go ahead, Jackie.
To me, 30 out of 500, that's a lot of people. I wouldn't want to be one of the 30. So it would be good if it initiated maybe some conversation in key places, you know, in the community about the numbers related to smoking and possible cancer.
Okay. Opportunity to have further discussions.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Having heard some of the things that would happen during this 3 to 5 year study, having heard about compensation or lack of, possible diagnosis, and challenges for treatment, do you think this study is feasible? Is it possible?
It's,
I don't know if participation would be the way you would like for it to be, especially because you're asking for such a lengthy time of a person's life. There's no compensation for committing to that. And then they also have to involve other members of their family because they can't go through the procedure without having somebody there. And so that's taking up somebody else's time. So I think with those barriers, there may not be as much participation as you'd like to see.
Okay, you're getting into barriers, but good. Yes, Jackie.
A whole workday is something for people to really think about,
It's a lot of time.
depending on what the nature of your work is,
Yeah.
whether or not you can do that and how often you can do that.
Yes, Wendell.
I was thinking. I
Just
wasn't
thinking.
listening,
Okay.
yeah.
Willie Frank or Jay? Anyone else? Think it's doable? Realistic?
I think it is. I mean, there are a lot of studies that last that long. Some studies go on for a person's lifetime. So it's feasible. It's just finding the right participants and the commitment.
Okay.
You have to look through a lot of people
Yeah.
to find people that will come for 5 years for no compensation, and if they found out they had cancer, then what? You know, I'm sure there are 30 people out there.
There are 30 people out there, you're sure?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there like a marketing plan to get people involved in it? Like, if there's an opportunity to like do public service announcements or billboards even, some opportunity to sort of make people think, oh, it's sort of cool to be part of this because I'm helping people in the future, that would help make it a little bit more feasible.
Okay, I'll yield to Yvonne. Would you like to address?
Well, we're using the typical methods of promoting the study. We marketed through the clinics at Vanderbilt, the VA, also here on campus, and we've reached out to one of our community health centers to help us market. So we have flyers and things like that, but it'd be great to get your input, your thoughts on better ways to reach out to communities that are not participating in the study at this point?
Church.
Church?
Yes. We get a lot of information through the churches in our community. If you get churches on board.
And I would say, in addition, in looking at some of the damage control that needs to be done, I don't want to jump ahead too far. But when you look at damage control, as far as how the community sometimes think it's been treated already, by doing a marketing plan that addresses that, I think will be really helpful. It's like the whole guinea pig piece that people have issues with as cultural barriers to participating in something like this.
Being mindful of the community's history and their experiences,
Yeah.
and being able to address those at the beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about what that would look like?
Yes, we can. What would that look like? What would a good, strong marketing piece look like to you all that would incorporate those components?
I would think possibly a generational piece on the grandfather, the father, and the grandson or grandmother in that way,
Okay.
and so that the mother should be doing it for future generations, so future generations won't be as impacted.
All right, that's good. What else? I heard a mumble on this end. Was that you, Jackie?
Yeah, I just said that I like that. I think that's
Okay.
good.
What about you, Helena? You're getting awfully quiet on me. Talk to me.
I'm thinking what else would be helpful when it comes to marketing. Come back to me in a
I think
second.
just
I got you.
the benefits, just really emphasizing the benefits of that and how it's going to benefit the community as a whole.
Okay. So stress the benefit, make sure that that's clearly laid out.
Yes.
What else? When you picked up the brochure, what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to read? What's going to attract you?
Somebody I know and trust
Okay.
telling me something I can believe.
Is that someone who looks like you?
No, someone, I mean, necessarily because you look like me doesn't mean I know and trust you.
Tell me what that means then. Tell me what that
You know,
takes for
someone I
you.
know, I mean, it's hard to explain that more than someone that I has done. I can't trust you unless you show me I can trust you. So someone that's been in the community, that's worked with us, that's been in there, that's had their sleeves rolled up, and you know, you'd have to get them on board to get people that believe in them to get on board, because there will be a gap or a bridge or whatever between just saying Vanderbilt wants to do this. This community, and there's not a face, and I don't really care what color the face is as long as I believe it. You know what I mean? It's not more. That's not. Does that make sense?
So having a familiar
See.
spokesperson, having someone you trust, also being able to advocate for the study as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to look like you, but someone that you're familiar with,
Yeah.
someone you've also had experience with, someone that you
Now,
trust
that's
in the
just for me,
community,
'cause some
maybe
people-
endorsing
some
the
people
study.
won't even go past. You have to look like me.
Yeah.
But that's just how I feel. Like, it doesn't matter to me as long as I know it's genuine.
Yes, Jackie.
I think you're going to have to do a good job in helping the community understand how it's going to benefit them. You know, we know how it's going to benefit, you know, a large, wealthy research hospital. And people know that too.
Okay.
So whatever marketing you do, something is going to have to be made clear as to how this benefits community to, you know, get optimal participation.
The first thing you'll hear will be why.
Why?
Why all of a sudden now
Why
you
now?
care?
But you
And that
may
has to
even,
be.
you could even narrow that down from community to how's this going to benefit my family? How's this going to benefit my kids, you know, my grandkids? What is this knowledge? If they see grandmama doing this, how will this help? So we may even make it a little bit more personal.
Okay,
To-
personalizing the benefit, making sure it's clear.
Creating some type of treatment plan. If I'm in the study and I do not come up with lung cancer, is there some type of treatment plan to help me stop smoking? Because I do have kids in my house. You know, so it's not always the ones that are diagnosed that have an action plan. There should be an action plan for everyone in the study to say, this is how you prevent lung cancer, which goes back to why am I going to participate? Why am I incentivized to participate? too in the study.
And not only having somebody who I can trust, but somebody who's experienced it, somebody who can tell me what their journey has looked like and how things happened and how it had affected them and their families. That would be helpful in making me feel like, okay, this may be something that I'd be interested in doing.
Okay.
There also is some type of, I don't know how you can do it, some type of, tobacco is addictive. You know, so some type of an addiction piece
Yeah.
to be put into that. Because, I mean, my mom smoked and she probably died of lung cancer and we didn't even know it. And what did I do? I smoked. So if we can look at that perspective of it also.
Okay.
The other piece I would like to add is the perceptions that smoking calms your nerves. That's why I started smoking, because I heard it, calms you down. But then also the other thing you got to deal with is, like they say, if you quit smoking, you're going to eat more. And I'm a testament to that. Every time I quit, I eat more, I gain weight. And I think, well, if I smoke, I won't eat as much. And so it's just a wheel, like hamster wheel around, with no real, vicious cycle with no real solution.
So making sure there's an education component
Would be super.
with tools and resources.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's good. You all touched on a couple of barriers, but I'd like for us to look at that a little more, with a little more detail. What do you think are the barriers to participating in this study?
Trust.
Trust,
Healthcare, not having any.
not having health care.
Time.
What do you mean by time?
Well, I look at my own schedule. I can't seem to manage to get all the things done that I need to get done in a day with work and family. I'd have to figure out where do I find more time to do this.
So this is personal time management, your daily
Yeah.
life, not necessarily the span of the
No,
the
just
project.
personal
Okay.
time management,
Okay.
The duration as well, if we're talking about the individual needing to be local, for that duration of time.
What if you travel? What if you move away?
What if I moved?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Jackie referred to a very wealthy institution known throughout the world, and with it not being able to provide bus passes or provide a ride, how in the world are they really going to help me if they can't give me a way to get to where the testing is? So there's some damage control that's going to have to be done on that, because we know the value of the institution, but we also know that it's got deep pockets, and if they wanted to help us get there, they could. So
Okay.
that, I think, would be a big barrier.
And I live in the inner city, so we bus everywhere. I don't even own a car. So that's not really an option for me to have to get downtown, get somewhere to participate. Or
So the
something like
barrier for
that.
you is just transportation, just getting to
Just getting there.
getting to the clinic to do something in a voluntary capacity
Yeah.
and not be compensated. And you're saying not even feeling valued enough that you would give me a $2 bus pass so I could even get there. So that needs to be taken care of.
With me, it would be on the back end, where if I found out I had lung cancer, and you guys said, well, you have lung cancer, thank you, bye. That would be a problem. So I'm not, I can figure out how to get there and do all this if I have to. If I know that if I have it, you guys will take care of that. Then it's worth it to me, for me and my family. But I couldn't get, personally, I don't care what you put on the front end, I can't get past the back end of the component, right? Well, what if I have it? Then what do we do? I mean, the whole point is to see if I have it. And so, how does it just stop there for me? What would make me want to come? It would scare me to death, more than anything.
Yep.
Knowing that I could get a diagnosis and not have
And not be
access
treated.
to the treatment that I need.
And the counseling, even the counseling.
And the counseling.
The whole nine,
Okay.
that whole component that comes with that. I mean, what do you do when you find out, you're 60 and you're and you have lung cancer and The only way you knew is because you went and did this survey that they helped you take, and this, like you said, this huge multi-million dollar goes, okay, thank you. You know, it's that part would be a hurdle for me that I don't know if I could hurdle. to be
What other
honest.
things would keep people from participating?
I'd like to add on that end, we mentioned earlier the insurance piece. But when you have insurance still only paying 10 or 20% of major surgery, which we know is up into several thousands of dollars, tens of thousands probably, if not more, then we still got that issue of where we're gonna get that from, our copay from.
It's still an incurred expense, and the bills that come with it.
Yeah.
And even if Vanderbilt didn't pay for that, even just navigating the participant through the system and following that through. Because if you find out and you 2 years in, how apt are you going to be to complete the study if you're trying to deal with having lung cancer? So maneuvering the waters as they try to figure out, hey, how do I live now? What do I do?
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so are you asking for maybe a support person that would guide?
Exactly. Advocate.
An advocate, okay. Just making sure I'm clear. Okay. I'm sorry.
Could you all talk a little bit about trust? I know it's been mentioned a few times, and I'm new to Vanderbilt, so I haven't been part of this institution for a long time. So I'd like to hear more about, what the issue is and what, as a researcher, I can do and what our team can do to overcome that barrier.
Well, one of the major trust things I see is it's not really Vanderbilt specific, but you're taking a biopsy, so you're collecting some of my genetic material. What's happening with that, with everyone, with security and privacy now? Is Big Brother taking this and doing something with it down the line? How are we going to handle that? Where is it stored? Is it destroyed? What happens?
Yeah, it would go into our tissue bank, and we would ask you to agree to allow us to use it for other research.
But can you opt out of that if you say no?
You can.
Okay.
And does anybody else get the results? Is that shared knowledge? Is that on my electronic medical record? That obviously impacts insurance and everything else when you talk about.
It's separate from your medical record, but we do de-identify your information, so if someone saw the results that's working on the study, they wouldn't necessarily,
They would know who it was.
connect it to you personally, yeah.
And I think that one thing you may be referring to is a psychosocial issue of our communities being surveyed to death. The majority of the time, somebody's knocking on your door as a white person with a clipboard trying to get information about you. And they come in and they leave, and they come and they go. And it's like, oh, how much are you getting paid for this? Or how much is, it's a cycle because it happens a lot. A lot of times people won't even open up the door anymore because of that issue of people surveying them really regularly for information that's really not going to help the person.
A lot of times you never see where the results of whatever you've participated in comes back to the community and makes any changes in the community at all.
And a lot of that also has to do with the attitude of the person that's asking you the questions. And if someone knocks on your door and you almost get a feeling that they're trying to get out as soon as they possibly can, they're just trying to get this information, they can take it back, and they really don't want to look at or touch the furniture, and you kind of feel, well, what do they really care? And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I just need to know you care. If I don't think you care and you only come by when you care, that's anything. Then when you do come by, I'm skeptical. What do you want?
Jackie, you had an
Yeah,
idea?
I would be more likely to trust the study. Vanderbilt has power and influence. I would want to know, where do they stand? Our governor decided not to take federal funds to expand healthcare. If they are on the side of expanding healthcare, for quite a few of these people who may be involved in a study may not have healthcare. Are they advocates, for the state of Tennessee expanding healthcare? If they are, then I would trust a little bit more and probably be involved in the study.
And how do you get the stigma of Tuskegee out of my mind?
Okay.
How do you do that?
And as a Tuskegee alumnus, there's still families at Tuskegee that are dealing with those the syphilis studies that were done, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
So there is.
So how do we maneuver through that piece of it? You're asking me to open up my home and give you my tissue, and we've heard that before.
Yep. You take something out, you can put something in.
Because right, yeah. So that's and it comes back to me. It all comes back to somebody I need to see that has been there before this happened and that cares. I think without those people involved, it's going to be hard to get a community to believe in anything that you're doing.
Okay.
And my daughter works in IT, and so she's always telling me about, how the cloud stuff is always getting hacked. So are you going to store this information on the cloud? People's information is always getting stolen, and how is it protected, and those kinds of things. So she's always concerned about that.
Anything else about trust and some of those barriers related to trust?
I would like to think that if there was a partnership done with Meharry Medical College, I'm sure there are several, but on this project, where you have a African-American medical student and a Vanderbilt medical student, which are probably not many African-American, together, as a team going, that may help with a little bit of the barrier perception. So I would go as a team together.
There are some other things, some other barriers that have been mentioned that I wanted to delve into just a little deeper. You all talked about the time commitment and duration of the study. We talked about it in relationship to personal time management. We talked about it in relationship to the length of the study and possibly moving away. Were there any other concerns about time commitment, either personally or long-term?
Your families, like I said, having them to have take time off of their jobs or whatever to take you to certain appointments, or just the time that you have to be away from your family or not be capable of taking care of your family during those testing moments or whatever.
So if you miss work, how are you compensated for work that day? I didn't hear that specifically, but that kind of popped up into my mind. When you all think about that, is it that you all would have to take a vacation day or a PTO or whatever opportunities that your employer offers for you to be off of work, or would you just go unpaid that day?
I probably would take a PTO, but the whole thing I would like to take away from the participants, as you running the study, is how will I get there? How will I get back? I mean, take that barrier away, so the participants don't even have to worry about that. We'll provide transportation to and from. I mean, it seems like it should be very simple to do that, because it's very hard for you to take a complete day off and have your wife or whoever else to take a day off to sit there all day waiting on you.
Even if you have to just call me an Uber, I'll take an Uber.
You take an Uber? Okay.
But it should be prearranged. I really shouldn't have to be involved in how I'm gonna get back and forth. I'm not getting compensated. So if the Uber's waiting for me, is gonna take me back, I'd be more likely to participate.
Take that stress off of it. That's one less stressor. What else?
And then you may think some people who would be interested in doing it may not have vacation days or things like that, so they would have to miss pay to participate in this study.
So do you think that people who would participate in this study might incur costs of their own?
Yes.
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 I would have to ask my son to get off work to take me. If I had someone had to drive me home, I couldn't drive, so he would have to get off work to drive me. So I mean, it has to be something, some component there for compensation. I don't even know if it's compensation. It's just you have to. If you want us to get there, you help us get there.
You want us there, help us get there.
Yeah.
What about childcare? Is that a concern for anyone?
Sure.
If you have this procedure, you've been sedated, you've got to get someone to pick you up, does that leave a child or someone that you're a guardian over at school or uncared for a period of time? What would that look like in your families?
You got 4
You
kids.
have to
I got
ask
4
someone
kids,
else
all
to
in
pick them
grade
up.
school. Yeah, we would have to make arrangements as well. So it's not just the participants' time, it's other family members and friends' times and babysitters and all of that, after school costs. Yeah.
So you're incurring a cost to do something for this study.
Right.
Okay. But it doesn't seem like they've taken the time to think about those costs and to include that in asking you to participate?
And if, and I don't know about any of you, but if the study would show me a way to be beneficial to me personally, besides telling me that I have cancer at the end, helping me with some type of program or some type of education piece, the compensation part would, kind of go away. But so far, all I'm hearing is that I'm going to come to this study, have to take a day off work, and at the end, I might know if I have lung cancer.
I'm gonna come to this study for 5 years.
5 years and do it, yeah.
5 years.
Not a summer,
Not a
but
summer.
5 years.
Just-
That's a long,
It's a
that's
lot
a
of
commitment.
sacrifice from the person participating, but no real sacrifice from the agency
study.
doing it.
And then what I haven't heard of anyone mention in detail is the procedure itself. It's not just going and getting blood drawn. They're doing something pretty invasive. Could you speak to that? You said you're going to go in.
Well, the reason we do the sedation is because we go in through the windpipe, through the trachea, into the lung to take a little bit of tissue.
Does anybody?
I would like to know
Risk.
the risk. Yes, thank you. That's a better word than what I was going to say. But yeah, the risk.
There's a
I'd like
small
to.
risk involved of bleeding after the procedure. It's not common, but it can happen.
Sore throat, that kind of stuff.
You probably will have a bit of a sore throat afterwards.
So that might be a second day off work, because I can't go to work if I'm a telephone operator.
Yeah.
I gotta talk all day. I'm just saying.
Those are things to think about. Does anyone else think about that procedure, and does it make you uncomfortable or scared? Do you have any other questions about that?
And you said sedation. Anytime the word sedation is mentioned,
There's a risk.
there's a risk.
The twilight.
Yeah, there's a risk. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Okay.
And nowadays, anytime you mention hospital, because a lot of people refuse to go to the hospital in general, because they say you go to the hospital to die. And unfortunately, that's that's just a, impression that people have. But a lot of people don't want to go to the hospital at all.
Well, it's like a stigma. It's like my grandparents, they wouldn't go to the doctor because once they start poking around at you, they're going to find something regardless. So it's just, hey, now they're sticking something down my throat. I told you not to go there. Now they told you got cancer. You know what I mean? It's a stigma attached with that.
So does this study require you to take any kind of medication or anything like that?
No, it's just the screening test that I told you about, once a year over the 5-year period.
Any other concerns or barriers you can think of? Because we're going to move beyond that to how do we get, what would help eliminate those barriers? So, any other concerns?
Go ahead.
Yes.
One thing. Since there are risks, do we sign a waiver of some sort prior to the procedure?
Well, we have an informed consent process that really spells out in detail everything that you will do as a participant as well as the risk.
Okay, so that
Well-
means if something went wrong,
Yeah.
it's rare that it,
If something went wrong during the procedures.
yeah, as a result of the
Yes,
procedure?
we would pay for your treatment.
Okay, that's the huge piece. That's what I was waiting to hear.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what the word waiver here meant. Who's wavering?
What am I waving?
What am I waving?
What am
Yeah,
I
what-
waving?
Don't worry
Okay.
about it. Well, it's
All right.
on you. That's huge, but it's still
All right.
it's a lot more barriers and benefits I'm looking at.
I noticed that too.
1 page of benefits, 6 page barriers.
Right, so after
Got a lot
looking
of
at
work to do.
those 4 pages of barriers, there have got to be some ways that we can help them go ahead and begin to think ahead and how they can eliminate those barriers. Some of these answers may be repetitive, but that's okay. I want to hear them anyway. What do you think would help this project be successful?
Compensation.
Compensation. Do you have any ideas of what that compensation might look like? You have a dollar amount or anything like that?
I mean, it's a year, so once a year you're going for that. I mean, $100 pops in my head.
$100 per
Right.
visit?
Right.
Okay.
I'm a little deeper with it. I don't care about the front end. I'm
Yes.
still concerned
About the back
what's
end.
going to happen if I find out I have it.
Yeah.
Because you're using me to further a study
Mm-hmm.
that's helping some people. But what is it doing for me? You know? So I wouldn't even worry about the front end. I mean, personally, I'm not saying, but if you tell me we're going to test you and for 5 years and we find out you have this, we're going to help you fix it.
So
then I'm good with
guaranteeing
that.
care. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I said to know that you would guarantee treatment
Yes. Yes.
if diagnosed.
Yes. And not treatment light, you
And
know,
not- okay.
but treatment.
But treatment.
You know what I mean? Not the light treatment.
Not kind
The
of
real deal, not a kind
kinda
of treatment, not drive me by the treatment. But
But you
I
want
need to
real-
get, yeah, I mean, because
The long term.
the
You-
long,
you
the
want to
re-
know
yeah,
that they're in
then
it for
show
the long
me that
haul.
you care.
Okay.
Just show me that you care. If I know you care, I'm more apt to be in. I'll take a risk. I'll take a chance. But if I'm not sure you care about me, why am I doing this?
Right. What would compensation look like for you, Jackie? If you put a dollar amount to it, or if you just want to make sure that you have the aftercare, what does that mean to you?
I was thinking more in terms of 150 to keeping in mind transportation, the inconvenience of other people, which may cost them more than just my time away from work for that day, but other things that may be involved that have cost to them.
Is that $150 per visit?
Yes.
Okay. All right, just
We're
making
looking
sure.
at
I'm
one
just
visit per
clarifying.
year?
What-
Yeah.
okay.
One visit per year
This is one visit per year. But
for 5 years.
for 5 years.
And I was looking at the second or third, how many times do you actually have the biopsy done?
3 times.
The last 3 years, or
No,
just?
the first, the third, and the fifth year.
Okay. So you have it done the first year?
Yes.
What about you, Helena?
I would say about 200.
200 per
You
visit?
just keep going up?
Yeah,
Say 3?
ask me.
Can you say 3? Yeah, they asked. We're going to say you for last, man.
Annie, what does compensation look like for you? What does that mean to you?
So, Yolanda, you're taking a piece of my tissue out of my body.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen.
A teeny bit of tissue out of my body. So now you're asking me to value that piece of tissue that you're taking out of my body and the study that it's going to participate in. So, again, I would have to go with my brother Wendell and say, upwards of a couple $100, yeah. And treatment. Again, we go back to that. That's my biggest
That's huge.
barrier is that, whether I'm diagnosed or not, if I come there and I don't, after the end of the 5 years, can you help me to stop smoking? Or if I am diagnosed in the second year, what happens from that second year to the 5th year? Do I stay in the study? Do I start my treatment at that second year? Am I out of the study then? Those are the kinds of questions I'm still,
Some of those logistics.
yeah.
Okay.
My perspective is the more you ask for, the more likely, you're gonna get it. So I'll say $500 for each visit. And it may not be doable, but it will be a nice start, and then we can work our way down from there.
You just want to make sure your expectation is known that I expect to get
Yes.
something. Okay. Do you think compensation should be different in years of testing than non-testing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I would think
I
so
think
too.
so, because
Yeah.
sometimes commitment isn't always there, and so if you stick to your commitment and stay the 5 years, I think there should be some compensation for sticking to what you agreed to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Sort
That's
of
a
a
good-
I
bonus.
think it should increase.
Yeah.
That's a
Maybe a
good, that's a
bonus,
good,
okay.
that's a good,
In
yeah.
years 2 and 4, when you don't have the bronchoscopy, it's just the spirometry, the CT scan, and then the blood and the sputum. So it's not the invasive
Correct.
procedure for those 2 years. So would less compensation be?
That would be
Yeah,
That would be
That would be
okay.
sufficient, yeah.
But I do think to keep someone in it for 5 years, you might want to think of compensation on the end of it. Even if you've not diagnosed anything,
diagnosed, yeah.
if you
Give
stay
them a
through this,
stay.
you will get this. door number 2,
That's
whatever.
definitely an incentive to.
Yeah, to
complete.
stay in
To
if you
stay in.
complete it, because you'll have a lot of people go, man, it's been 3 years, they'll find somebody else. I'm not, but if you have something at the end of that, well, I only got 2 more years, it's only 2 more visits, and at the end of that 5th visit, I'll get whatever. Cake.
And somebody mentioned earlier too, the fact that we move around a lot. But if you have that incentive at the end, it'd be worth coming back.
Yeah,
Participate in it,
it would. And so back end incentive is always good.
Anything else related to compensation? Yes, Annie?
Well, not necessarily compensation, and I don't know if we've even mentioned it yet or not, but the tissue that's going to be removed, what types of studies are going to be done on it? What's going to happen to it?
Well, Vanderbilt has a tissue bank, so we will keep it for potentially other lung diseases. But that's also part of the consent that you sign. You have to agree to allow us to keep some tissue.
And to be used in other studies?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
But it would be all signed over to you all. We wouldn't have any say with any of that. Right.
You all touched on recruiting and what the recruitment of this study should look like. What we've identified are churches. We talked about emphasizing the benefits, the generational focus, making sure it's someone that I know and trust, someone that I'm familiar with, the gap between the institution and the community, and making sure that the study displays a genuine care for its participants. Is there anything else, any other recruitment tools that should be included that the study should take under consideration or advisement?
Community agencies, because they are very present in the community and they work with the people hands-on, and they'd be a good resource for you to recruit for the study.
Okay.
Radio.
Radio, using the radio
Yeah, I was
as a
gonna
method to
say-
reach and educate about the study or to recruit for the study? Both?
Primary recruit/educate or
Recruits.
aware.
Okay, awareness.
I was going to say public service announcements too, but not just for the study, but to tell people to take better care of themselves. And if you are a smoker, here's an opportunity, but in the meantime, these are the things you can do to cut down on your smoking, or these are some of the rumors, with the weight gain and all that stuff. The other note I made was this Shantex. I'm not familiar with Shantex. This is quit smoking drug that you can take now.
Oh, yes.
And at the end of it, it has like a list of 15, 20 different side effects, including death and, anal discharge and all that stuff, right? But there was actually a local professor here in Nashville that passed away from taking this Shantex to try to quit smoking cigarettes, because suicide was one of the side effects or something of it, and he took his own life because he was trying to quit smoking cigarettes. So those, that kind of news spreads. So you got to figure out, well, how are we going to balance, that with what we're trying to do here. So public service announcements that sort of encourage people to do it the right way, that you don't have to take a pill. You can do it the old-fashioned way, and then you can be successful. Maybe give some testimonials, that type of thing, where people say, yeah, I quit. I smoked for 15 years and I quit. Always good.
If you see it and you see it's been done before, you're more apt to at least try it yourself.
Can you guys go back to, you mentioned PSAs and things, but since Yvonne speaks to the community, can you speak specifically to those markets that address African Americans?
Cumulus.
When you say specifically, you mean just name markets? Name?
Where are you going to promote your
What radio station? What TV station?
QQ
Yeah. WQQK,
on the hour.
if you want to get specific. And we've already said churches, but I think it's a big component of what we do. And community leaders and activists and of all generations. You know, I want someone, I would love someone that is my son's age to talk to him about it. Rather, I mean, I could talk to him, but I don't want to stay focused on people as far as recruitment for us, but as far as prevention also. I would love for someone his age to speak to him about, or to say, to be in these PSAs.
Well, I think Tiffany had a great point there that Yvonne is new to the community. I'd like for us to get specific. Can we name any particular community organizations or community leaders that stand out to us that we know would be engaged and would be willing to at least have a conversation about supporting this study?
I would say Harold Love, Representative Harold Love. He's got a really well-known face and voice, and his signature means a lot, even if it's just a quote on a brochure from him.
Connie Donnell.
That gives them a starting point. Anybody else?
Sharon Kay with Fisk.
Sharon Kay?
Definitely
Okay.
in the community.
Who else?
101. Who's the DJ? at
101 The Beat Jam?
I don't know his real name, and it's
Scooby?
Scooby.
Scooby?
Yeah,
Okay, we
I
can
mean,
start
you
there.
wanna call him Scooby.
We can start there.
Yeah,
102.
and then you, of course, you have Senator Harper and Brenda Gilmore and those political people.
Are you whispering, Jackie? Go ahead. You know what happens when y'all whisper. You all
You
know.
want-
You've been with me long enough. What happens? What did you say? Give me that name.
I don't know if you want to hear that.
Me.
All right.
I'll say this. He mentioned Senator Harper being a communicator. So I'll say no more.
Okay. All right. I
Let's
can
just
respect
keep
that. Anyone else? Who else is out there?
Well, I mean, you've also, of course, you got pastors, and you start with the biggest church in Nashville, which would be Mount Zion.
Bishop Walker.
Bishop Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
10,000 members.
Plus, yeah. I mean, that helps. Of course, if you want to get, there are different people that focus on different things. You may want to get some Titans involved. I don't know about, I was going to say some people from the Preds, but I don't know how many Preds come to North Nashville, to be honest. Your photo ops, yeah, and then they got to keep the car running. But
So I don't know any of these people. I'm leaving that.
oh, okay.
How do I make these connections, or have someone on my team make these connections?
You find someone who does.
Radio station, you can just call community service.
Call or email the radio station.
Yeah, you might want to think about, the mayor has an outreach program. If you want to you start with Megan Berry, and the mayor's office can direct you to a lot of. They use that as a tree, and they have a lot of branches that go out into the
If you went to
community.
the mayor's office, you would probably contact Larnell Matthews because he's community engagement and neighborhood stuff.
See, see the director of the was it Moon?
Neighborhoods,
I always want to say the
and
acronym.
community
Is that who that
engagement.
is?
But he would be a good person to help you touch all those people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a face that people relate to,
Yeah.
face of trust.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other group? I heard you all say community organizations. Anyone in particular?
Well, like Noah.
Noah, that's a
Noah
good
is a
one.
good group. They've got several hundred members, maybe thousands now.
I work at Nashville Cares, and that would be a good one. We have a stop smoking session once a week with our clients because we're trying to promote total health. So centers like that would probably be very good as you're promoting total health, not just one specific disease.
Nonprofits that help the community out that people see. There's a really good one called OIC.
OIC is a good one.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
great one.
Who else is out there?
I would access Matthew Walker.
Matthew
Yes.
Walker, that's a great one, yes.
Is Meharry partnering with this at all?
I'm
No?
not aware.
You might want to reach out to them, like
Maybe.
yesterday.
Okay.
Neighborhood health centers, I don't know if you're working with them, but they're,
That's the same. Okay.
And then you may want to start going into barber shops and beauty shops and I was gonna say weave shops, but hey,
New hairstyle.
I mean that's where people go.
You just want us to go where the people are.
Just go where the people go.
Go where the people are. Barber shops, beauty shops, and churches. Where else are we?
I was going to say, before the weave shop come in, factory settings and manufacturing type settings. And it's very stereotypical to say, but in that setting, you have a lot of people that smoke. My nephew just started working at Nissan, and on their breaks, he never smoked before he went into this setting, and now he's a smoker. So I don't know what happens, I don't know why, but he is now, so,
Peer pressure, stress happening.
yeah, so.
And unfortunately, people are picking up smoking as a way to cope.
As a habit,
and some
yeah.
other things as
Yeah.
well. Anyone
That
else?
might be a great way, like she was saying, some of the major employers, because they always want their employees to be healthier, so they would certainly want a partner, so you won't miss work. So,
I think so, yes.
What about schools?
Elementaries, middle schools, high schools, colleges,
kids
trade
start
schools.
smoking early.
Which schools?
but this is 50. Are we the
No,
target?
we're trying to recruit,
In terms of recruiting, yeah, we're looking.
Oh, we're trying to recruit people to actually come for the study. Okay,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
mind. Nobody should be in high school at 50. That's a whole nother studio.
study.
That's another
That's another
studio,
study.
yeah.
So
my
are you
bad.
thinking about universities in particular?
Yeah, universities.
Okay,
well,
trade
yeah,
schools,
yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I
I'm
would
thinking
contact,
prevention.
The bus, our bus system. I
Okay.
see advertisements on
Yeah.
buses.
MTA.
Maybe you could do,
Yeah.
something down at the actual bus depot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You could put a recruitment stand there, almost at
Roving advertisement. Yeah.
And then one thing that came to my mind was all the smokers do congregate now together because they all have to leave the building and they can't stand by the door anymore, so they all have designated smoking areas. So if you had some decals or something you could put actually on the receptacles for the butts, that for the active smokers to see, that might attract some smokers to the project.
So as a recruitment tool, market the recruitment where the smokers are likely
Where
to
they
be.
congregate,
Where they're
right.
congregating, okay. Alrighty.
I was going to say, cigar bars are very popular now, so.
hookah bars.
Hookah bars
Hookah
are very
bars,
popular now.
I don't know about 50 and
I don't know if you want to go, yeah, 50
You know,
is
50
kind
and
of,
up, I don't-
yeah,
I
I
think
don't
I
know.
get to see a old
I
dude
don't
at a
go,
hookah bar.
but I know friends who go to smoking bars, but they're not 50 though, so.
I just
So scratch
sometimes
that.
yeah.
50 forward.
Oh, the senior center, okay, that's a good
54.
one.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
What about the family resource centers? So a lot of them have senior programs. Would that be an appropriate outlet, an appropriate partnership?
Yeah, like silver sneakers.
Silver Sneakers,
Oh, yes.
How they park has its bands.
Hadley Park in particular?
Yeah. Hadley
Park.
Okay.
What about the like Hadley Towers and those kind of things?
The senior
High-rise.
complex,
The
the
senior
high rise,
complex, the senior high rise.
assisted living facilities? Well, not, yeah.
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 All righty. Wow, we have covered a lot during this session. Is there anything you wanted to say but did not have an opportunity to say? Anything we've missed? When you look at the list, can you think of anything that should have been said that wasn't? Anything you just want to ditto or make sure we bring special attention to? Yes.
One thing that came to my mind we didn't talk about was the expense of smoking, how much it costs to smoke. And if you could look at how much people will spend, say, over the course of a year and how many packs or whatever they smoke, I think that may have some serious, that would help us get them to try to quit. And that may be I'm not sure how much of a goal that is from this group, but I mean, of course, we do want people to quit, but if we let them know how much money they have spent on cigarettes and they're actually paying for this disease.
Okay. All right, give you 1 second, give you 30 seconds, and here's my last question for you. I want you to think of the one thing that you want Yvonne to take away and back to her team. It can be something we've said before, or it can be something new. But it cannot repeat anything that is being said during this final go-round, okay? I'm going to give you just a second. Everybody ready? Getting your thinking caps on? I'm going to start with Jay and end with Jackie. Yes. One
Mine
thing.
is trust in the collection of the genetic material.
Trust in collection of the genetic material. Okay.
Compensation, hands down.
Compensation, hands down.
What are you going to do with my tissue?
Making sure you explain what you're going to do with my tissue.
Yeah.
Help me if you find out I have it.
Help me if you find I haven't, if you find out
If you
that
find
there's
out that I
something
actually
wrong.
have it, I need help.
Being considerate of the sacrifice that you're asking the participants to make.
I would appreciate it if somehow you could make this intergenerational, because we have a lot of grandparents that are raising or very intimately involved in younger grandchildren's lives. So it can have a far-reaching and, long-lasting impact. Give the grandparents some tools to provide, the younger grandkids.
Well, again, I want to say thank you all for this discussion. I've certainly learned a lot about what you all think about this study, and I hope that the researcher will take this information back to her team and do good work with it. Thank you till next time.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you all. You've given me so much to think about. I feel like we really have to make some significant changes. I've learned a lot about the community, about Vanderbilt, a lot of things I didn't know about Vanderbilt's relationship with the community. This is really amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You may want to start. So I've got two things. Yes.
Oh, hi. Okay, great. Patrick. So, I would love to hear how, we kind of started with, you've all been here before, you've done this in the past, you've been part of a community engagement studio. So one, I want to hear how you start with kind of creating that community sense of people being part of the discussion and being at the table when they've never participated before, and if you do any, icebreakers or anything that kind of gets the group going. So that's my first question.
Sure.
Second question is, level setting. This group of folks, you guys cruised by some words like biomarker and bronchoscopy, where I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to stop and say, what does this mean? And I know this was a mock, but how do you get people comfortable with research terms? Like even, today we're here to talk about a protocol. Do you do a glossary or kind of go through and say, this is what we're talking about, and really account for all the different levels in health literacy and numeracy before the conversation starts?
Sure. I think those are both great questions. To establish rapport and kind of build some collective efficacy in the room, generally someone doesn't participate unless they've had a conversation with me, whether it's in person or at a community meeting where I've gone and done some outreach, or even vis-a-vis the telephone. So I've talked with them a little about what a community engagement studio is, what does that even mean, and what makes you an expert, and talk a little bit about lived experience and the expertise you bring to the room, because we do have a really wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds in our database, which is now I think over 400 total. So it really is pretty expansive. So I usually have a one-on-one discussion with individuals before they ever are at this table, just to get them comfortable with being at the table, because a lot of people have never had a place at the table, for lack of a better description. So I make sure they're really comfortable with it and kind of own it and feel good about expressing their opinions and knowing that there, again, are no right or wrong answers. So that's definitely one piece of it. My degrees are both in social work, so that's kind of like, I used to organize with some of the people around the table in the community, so that's kind of like what we do. The second piece of it is that this was, because it was a mock, was very kind of tempered and tailored. Normally the presentations, so if you have terms that I don't understand because I don't have a medical background, we always give a very simplistic definition of those terms, like what a bronchoscopy is and what it looks like. I have researchers use photographs and sometimes even video in their presentations to show them exactly what the procedure looks like and what it would happen, and these are the instruments used, and then there is generally a lot more discussion. So when we did this studio, it was with mostly older African Americans with generally a lower educational attainment level at Hadley Park Community Center, which was mentioned as a place that you could possibly recruit for the study. And so they had tons of questions about explaining what bronchoscopies are and what the tools look like and does it hurt and things like that. And we took the time to answer all those questions on the front end before we ever even got to the discussion about what would be barriers and things that we need to be thinking about for outreach and advertisement and things like that. In terms of establishing rapport past having those individual meetings, what's really, really, really important to me, and we were asked to do a toolkit once, and I was like, I don't know how you explain to be nice to people. When people show up, I greet them, I chat. I already probably know a lot about them because I've talked with them. I know where they work, I know if they have grandkids, I know if they're retired, I know if they just got back from a trip, I know if they took the bus. So I already know a lot of that stuff about them. So when they arrive at the door, I don't know if you noticed, but we all hugged. Like, I've worked with these people for the last 6 years, so I know a lot about our folks. I have experts that email us to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I just got a clean bill of health on my latest cardiac report, or I just wanted to let you know I'm taking this trip, or, I mean, they really are pretty committed to the process and feel, I think, valued and a part of it. So part of it is this, like, understanding of just how to work with people, like how to be engaging, how to make them feel comfortable. I usually serve our experts. That sounds really silly, but when everybody comes and they sit down, normally they don't make their own plates. We don't have the fancy food that we had today. We do a lot of box lunches and stuff. So I serve them. I would be like, Sisway, what can I get you to drink today? Hey, Jay, I think you had ham and turkey today. Let me grab that for you. It's just part of, like, building relationships. So I kind of in service to the folks we serve. So does some of that help? Did I answer? You guys want to give some feedback on how we do that? Because you've been in a lot of studios where, yes, you guys know, you get this, you've been doing this for a long time, and you might participate at leadership levels, but not everybody in the room does.
I will say this, if you want to get started, the first person you need to find is someone that's exactly like Tiffany. I'm serious, because I wouldn't be here without her. I knew her, so I trusted where I was going. Usually when I came to Vanderbilt, it was because I was sick or something was wrong with me. So she has a lot to do with the people that are at the table. So the first piece I would do if I were you would be not get her, because we're not letting her go, but to find someone like her that can talk to Yvonne as well, that can bring us to the table. And I think that the thing that we all have in common is that we all know and love Tiff.
And then another thing to back on that is because we have that relationship with Tiffany, when she needs us to recruit, we can recruit people because we trust her.
Yeah.
And so they trust us, we trust her, and we can bring in.
It's funny you said that. Sisway called me this morning. He was like, hey, I'm just going to leave you a quick message. If you're short today, call me, because I got somebody that'd be great. Call me back.
It's like a family. It really is. It really is.
We're all community people. We know each other. Our paths cross all the time, so.
Yeah.
And I
we
will
don't
say this,
come
this
here
was a
strangers.
tame.
Yeah.
We were really good today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And I'll also add, though, we obviously identified some seasoned community engagement studio participants for this, but doesn't mean that we can't do it with people who never done a studio. Obviously, everyone at the table has never done a studio at some point, but because we wanted it to be a mock and people not uncomfortable with cameras and a dozen people looking on, that's what was different. But Bray's question about the language, I think we have an example of a researcher's presentation before it got to Tiffany and Yvonne, and then after it got to Tiffany and Yvonne. So, the number of complicated words and acronyms that were wiped out, and the length of the presentation really shortened before and after. So that's part of the studio process. So the researcher is typically meeting with the team and getting rid of all that medical terminology that people at this table would probably, we would spend most of the time answering questions if we did.
This original studio, not one expert had participated prior to this studio that they did, just as an example. So you're right, absolutely.
I have two questions. One, first of all, I thought that and I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but the facilitator, Yolanda, you did an outstanding job. I've seen a lot of these, and I know how hard that job is. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about the training for facilitation. And my second question for the group in general is, given that all of you have been in more than one of these studios, I'm curious sort of what you took away from it personally. I know a large part of what you said, the people are what bring you back, but tell me a little bit about what you kind of took away from this and what you valued out of participating in this process.
Okay. As I mentioned, I'm the transition consultant for the Neighborhoods Resource Center, but my career started many, many years ago in the nonprofit community here in Nashville. And over that time, I acquired different trainings, and I can give you the acronyms now. One was TOP facilitation, one was the ORD conversation focused training. And so over the years, I've just picked up different trainings, and when I was asked to lead these sessions, Tiffany and Yvonne and the rest of the team, we got together and we sort of piloted and figured out what is it that a facilitator would need to have, what are the skill sets and what would that look like, and then we created a toolkit and a facilitator's guide. So I have some pointers, and it's easy for someone else to come in some cases, to fill in my spot if I'm not available.
I will say, every facilitator we have on consulting right now, they all have community organizing backgrounds, whatever that's worth. Do you guys want to?
Before they say what they got out of it, Yvonne, do you want to say how you've chosen facilitators and sort of seeing them in the community? Do you want to say something about that?
Well, so as Jackie said, Tiffany and I also worked in the community for many years before coming to Vanderbilt. And we've had facilitator training as well, and so there are people known to us in the community that have this kind of training. A lot of folks who have this kind of training have a community organizing background, which comes in very handy. And we look for people who, in a facilitating situation, can do things like balance the power. And this is a big issue when you bring community folks in who don't go to meetings for a living, which is kind of what researchers do, who are not used to that environment, who don't consider themselves experts, and will naturally defer to the person with all the letters at the end of their name. So that's one of the first things we look at, is someone who's able to do that, to create that balance. We look for people who can not only keep the conversation going, but make sure that everybody at the table has their voice in the room. You notice Yolanda was prodding some people who weren't quite as active in terms of their responses. But also redirect people, because occasionally you have someone in the group who will want to dominate the conversation, or they will go off on tangents, okay? So, nobody here would do that. Would ever do that. So, and typically when we start out, Tiffany will co-facilitate with a new facilitator. We have a facilitator's guide, and we have probing questions. I don't know, we kind of skipped over it quickly, but the very last slide that I had was 3 questions. 3 general questions that I wanted to present to the group. And we always say to the researcher, you can have 2 or 3 questions. And we really work with them to sort of hone in on just 2 or 3 questions, because any more than that, you're not going to get enough out of it in the time frame. So we've got our main questions, and then the facilitator actually has a list of probing questions, follow-up questions, things like that. And of course the researcher can jump in and say, oh wait, can we go back to that, because I asked about trust, I think, when we were doing it. So that's kind of the process.
I apologize. I apologize. Leslie is like 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys had a chance to go around the table to answer the second piece of the question, but I didn't want to interrupt.
I didn't see Leslie, which I'm sorry.
And that question was, what do you get out of participating?
So for me, it's more or less having a seat at the table and making sure that my particular area is represented. So for the most part, we mainly deal with ailments that are around in our communities and stuff like that rarely get touched on or rarely get researched. I'm working with the Sickle Cell Foundation because I actually have sickle cell. So for me, to have lived this life and know that now that I'm over 40, that we're still encountering some of the same issues that I had when I was 10, that's no progress. So making sure that I'm available to be there to answer questions, provide insight, to provide direction, strategy, those kinds of things in that particular area. So, anybody else?
For me, it's knowledge. I'm not there are a lot of things out there that I don't have knowledge for as far as medical is concerned. But my students that are in my program, a lot of them have those barriers or those issues. And to be able to share some of the information that I get when I'm in these studios with them, to give them direction on what they need to do or what possibilities are out there to help them, that's helpful to me. Because that's our goal, is to help them in every area of their life, not just what they come to us for.
For me, it's knowledge as well, but the little icing on the cake is I look forward to seeing the people who are around the table. We've kind of developed a community among ourselves. We've gone out and danced and listened to Wendell's music. So, we know each other, we enjoy one another's company. So it's an occasion to, because we're all extremely busy.
Right.
So it's an occasion for us to come together, hey, how you doing, what's up, give a hug, and then learn.
For me, I used to be an employment career specialist for a nonprofit, so it's really important to me to give back. But I was born and raised in North Nashville, so I always want to make sure that we're represented and make sure that we're somebody's here representing who we are at the table. It's very important, and I always get a good feeling when I do it because I always know that these people always care. It's really important.
And I do it for knowledge as well, and also to be part of the community and be able to take knowledge back to the community. I always did surveys since I was in college for extra money, just to make extra money, but now I do it and I choose them carefully, and I only choose ones that I think are going to benefit me and providing more knowledge back to my community.
Oh, no, the statistics for North Nashville with regard to the people having hypertension and diabetes and brain, strokes and all that is just really, really high. And we also have a high infant mortality rate here. So I want to do what I can to help that because we're supposed to be the health mecca, the health capital of the country or the world right here. And we have such a bad disparity when it comes to that. So this is me doing a little bit to try to help with that.
Is there any sort of follow-up that happens afterwards with the participants at the engagement studios, and do you ever see any of them joining studies?
We are trying to get better at follow-up, and we do encourage researchers to do that. One of the issues that comes up, and I think somebody mentioned it in the studio, is that, we mine people for data, and then they never hear anything about it. So we're actually, for our whole program, looking at doing a better job of disseminating findings. And we've had studios specifically on how to disseminate the findings. I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
If they join the studies.
Oh, okay, so we also do not allow researchers to ask people to join their studies. These are not research subjects, they are consultants, they're advisors, but it's not unusual for the participants, the experts, to volunteer on their own because after they learn about the study, they think this is a great study. I'll help you recruit. I'd like to be in it myself. It does happen.
What's happened, I think, more often than not now as we've moved forward here is that we have more and more individuals like Alexis who are becoming leaders in the study. They are becoming co-PIs, they are on advisory councils, they are consultants. So that happens more than individuals actually joining a study as a participant. It's more that they are actually becoming very integral parts of the study to help make sure that the data's quality, that they can recruit, that they can retain.
I was just thinking about the great suggestions that they gave for making the study better. And so if you can imagine sort of how they dug deep and came up with ideas that we wouldn't have, that they're really invested in and they want to see it move forward. So that's what we see in people wanting to continue to help us.
Hi, so I have a three-part question. The first is, how many of these studios do you usually do over the course of a year? And then related to that, what type of support is provided to you so that you can have time off from work and make arrangements to give your time And then lastly, I'm just curious, if you do numerous studios over the course of the year, how different do you find them? I mean, are a lot of the issues sort of common across topic areas, or are they vastly different? I'm just curious.
She is, but I was going to ask Leslie really quickly because I know we don't have much time. She told me we have to be out. So I was going to ask real quickly if we could kind of summarize. Like, so how many of you have done over 5 studios? How many of you have done over 10? Okay. Do you guys want to speak to her questions, the other questions around, like, how do you get off from work and the support and things?
The ones I choose are usually around 11, 12-ish, so I use it on my lunch break and just take a little extended lunch.
That's what I do.
And get that approved. We usually know well in advance, so I just plan accordingly.
Yeah, she sends out doodles to make sure that our times work, and isn't that what you
I
use,
do
right?
doodles.
She does doodles, so
It's
we
free.
figure out what works for everybody, and we basically come to that agreement. Yeah.
And we almost always have these around a meal, thinking of that. So it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, so that burden of being away from your work or family is lessened, and you don't have to think about food.
Different experiences at different studios?
I have had, they've all been kind of different to me.
Yeah.
They've all been medically related, but on a different aspect. So they're all kind of medically based, but whether they're researching to go into the community to find someone who has this disease, or whether they actually have some information that they just want to share with someone.
You've done several, because Alexis didn't tell you this, but she's a developer, a software developer, and so you've done several that were on like technology apps and user interface and
user interfaces and stuff like that. So I've done several different variety of studios. But
One that I would mention is one was with regard to childhood asthma, and how we would work with the parents, and they showed us like the video that they were going to show the parents, and we were able to comment on that, and whether or not that was a good imagery or not to show, and it really made me think that I had a lot to do with helping that be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the studios that we do, I know for me, are somewhat personal because either you personally have some experience with the subject matter or someone in your family does.
Yeah.
So you're highly motivated to come and participate and learn as much as you can so you can share.
So some of the ones we've either done most recently or have coming up, we've done one that was related to genetic testing for kidney disease with African Americans. We have one coming up with ICU survivors. We've done a lot with HIV/AIDS. And they all look very different. Some researchers want to know more about recruitment and retention. Some want to know if their research design is feasible. Others have, pretty hard questions around the ethics of their study. So they vary pretty significantly, but I would say across the board, no one can recruit minorities, and they don't understand how to do it. But it's really hard if you don't leave this campus. So the feedback that they can get is really pretty golden. Time? Yeah?
It's time.
Okay.
So
We're here all week.
thank you all again to our experts. We really appreciate your time, and look forward to sharing with you how our project's going. So thank you.
Thank you.